Welcome back to Yerushalmi Shekalim. Now I'm just going to go back slightly to your Testament base. So we're talking about like Rosh Hashanah for Maaseh Behema. So we're going to go back to here. Tamon Tanina. So anyone born, when the animal's born, 1st of Tishri to 29th of Elul, Ra'elam is starfin. They join together for Maaseh Behema. Chamisha lifnei Rosh Hashanah, Chamisha lachar Rosh Hashanah, aim is done. 5 before Rosh Hashanah, 5 after, don't join up. So if it's in the same year, different seasons, but if it's in the same calendar year, Harav is starting, they join up. Now we're talking about what is that level of Maaseh Behema, and we're comparing it to Maaseh of Trumas and Maaseh of vegetables. So Harav YCD. Now when they looked at the Rosh Hashanah for Maaseh Behema, what is the point of change? Now they didn't look at the chanata you find with budding of fruits and things with Maaseh Peiros. You have a budding stage. But like a shlish, they didn't look at a third growth, which you find with grain and olives. They looked at birth. When's the animal born? In Tema Kachena, if you're going to tell me they looked at sort of the budding stage, now if that's the case, listening, it should have said, Kol Mubarin, from anyone that's pregnant, Menacha B'Tishri Adesha B'Tishri Elul till the 29th of Elul. So we would have had a different determining factor. Is the animal pregnant or not? That would be similar to the budding stage. Now in Tema Kishlish, if you want to say a third growth, now a third growth with grain and olives means it's sort of fitting to go on the Mizbeach. Now a similar stage with animals would be that the animal is a week old. Because remember, you can't put an animal on the Mizbeach until it's a week old. Therefore, the animal would have to be a week old before Rosh Hashanah. And this, we didn't explain this well enough last time, that's why I'm saying it now. If that's the case, then basically it would be any animals born till the 22nd, that would enable them to be a week old by the time Rosh Hashanah comes. So if we were comparing to growing a third, it would be like fitting for use on the Mizbeach, it would have to be born by the 22nd. Now we didn't say that. We said no, it's based on the year they're born. So you see, what determines the year of Maaseh Behema is not the same as the determining factors with fruits and grain, etc. It all depends on birth. Rav Shammai, he says, so no, we did treat it like a third. Right? But where we said till the 29th of Elul, because it's like Rav Shimon, he said the fact that it's under a week old, that's fine. It still can have Maaseh Behema happening, even though it can't go on the Mizbeach. Even though it can't go on the Mizbeach, that doesn't matter. Now, Rav Shammai, Rav Mona got up. Amalei, he said to him, so you're saying this? Amalei, yeah. Amalei Vatili, and we said Ben Azai. Now, Ben Azai said all the animals born in Elul should be miced together with Elul animals. Now surely he's going on, even if they're born all the way till 29th of Elul. And according to you, even they're born the end of Elul, because Ben Azai holds the fact that it's less than a week old, it can still have Maaseh. Therefore, they're considered complete, and they're like grown a third. But Islach Meima, are you going to say that Ben Azai is Rav Shimon and Rabban? Are you going to say it's only like Rav Shimon, not the Rabbanan who argue? I mean, surely Mechus Zman is not fitting for Maaseh Behema, but they still belong to the year in which they're born. Because the year of birth is what determines. It's not to do with the din of grain and all that. And Ramona goes to explain how these animals born at the end of the year, they might be Mechus Zman, but they can still have Maaseh. Kamada Tamad Rabbanan. So, just like you say with understanding the Chachamim, right? Now they hold everything depends on Rosh Hashanah, Maaseh Behema, 1st of Tishri. Anything born from 1st of Tishri, 29th of Elul, that joins up together, right? And they're born after 22nd of Elul, they don't go with the end of Elul, they're the previous year. Although they're B'chus Zman, you can't really have Maaseh, but he says, Manichan l'sha'abah. You leave them for next year, maybe it's actually they should have Maaseh with the animals born in the following year. Now, that's what you want to say what Ben Azai means, that when they're born from Elul, they're part of that year, even though they're born at the end of Elul, but the ones born after 22nd, you think you leave them to next year, they'll start having Maaseh together with that year that they're born. Basically, what it comes out, that is based on the year they're born, right? Not when they're fitting to be offered up, right? And with this, Rav Chia learned that is the din, and that's how you work out the reckoning. Even if the bachor is mechusas man, it's the first 7 days of its life. It's considered its first year. How do we learn from the following? What do you learn from this pasuk? It means basically we're looking at time of birth, right? We're not necessarily comparing it to Masteris, whatever it is. We're looking at the time of birth. We're not talking about when making an animal hekdesh. That can be when the animal's born. But with the bachor, we're talking about the zman of kedushas of bachor. Okay, so that's what he wants to say. So basically, he wants to say that even the animal's born. Let's say end of Av, he says might have mice together. What's this? Basically that's what it is. So it's based on the time of later. That's what we're determining everything on. Halacha base. So you have 3 boxes of 3 sar each. Terminus alishka. We take out the shkalim of the lishka. Okay. Because of Alein out of base gimel, then the boxes are numbered, so we know which is the first box. It's alpha, beta, gamma, 3 Greek letters. Now the one who takes the shekels out doesn't go with like a garment with a hem where you can secretly stash the money. Or not with shoes whatever loaded tefillah. It can be various other bags. Shemayani, who might become poor, but people will say because he stole from the Lishka, he became poor. But Shemayashi will become rich. He became rich from Lishka. And there's need right? You have to look innocent in front of people, just like in front of Hashem. Shenema, as it says, so a person wants to appear righteous, he should be righteous, and he should appear righteous in front of Hashem and in front of mankind. Okay? Taman Tarina, we learned in Shabbos, now you can move away containers of straw because the guests are coming or for places of learning. Now how big are these boxes? Which boxes you're allowed to move? How big are they? What we don't know, we learn from what we do know. Tani, we've learned Shalish Kupais. What do we have in our Mishnah? 3 Kupais, Shalish Shalizon of 3 star. Shein Tisha side, which is 9 star together. Shein Esrim Sheva side is 27. Termin es Halishka. Right, 3 times a year, so you get 27. They take out the shekels. Because we're laying out of base Gimel. When Marcos will now base Gimel, why do they have these letters on? Loma to tell you take from the first one, then later on in the year you take from the second one. First before the second. Second one before the third. So we have to know what was the first box, what was the second box, what was the third box. Okay? Now, Tamar Tarina, we've learnt in Shabbos, Hamotzi Yain, person carrying wine from one domain to another, when is he liable? The amount of wine where you add water to it to make it drinkable. Right? Rav Zeira Sha'al, as Rabbi Yoshe, Kamosh Yurin Shalakos, how big is the cup? What are we talking about? Amalei says, what we don't know, we learn from what we do know. The 4 cases of Chachamim, they said it's a reverse. They reverse Yain HaItalki, it's a reverse of this Italian wine. So basically every cup holds a quarter reverse of wine before you dilute it, and a whole reverse after you dilute it. And that's the amount of raw wine that you're chayav for carrying it on Shabbos, right? A quarter reverse, which is the amount you would dilute, and then you make it reverse in order to drink it. Now, the share that a person's chayav on carrying. This is the view of Yehuda. Tatani, we learned Mayim carrying water on Shabbos. The share is Kedei Kemiyah, like one cheekful. Rabbi Yehuda, the amount you'll put on your eye for like a refuah, for a medicine of some kind. Yayin, wine, this raw wine, Kedei Kemiyah, the cheekful. Rabbi Yehuda, he said Kedei Mezikas Sakais. Now, the amount you would dilute, which is to make it a whole cup, which again is a quarter of the reverse, etc. Okay? Hakais mazug bekama. a cup of diluted wine, how much are you liable for? We learn from the following: Mayim, waters kedei gemia, is the amount of a cheekful. Rabbi Yehuda, he said, the amount you put on one's eye as a sort of ointment. Yayin, undiluted wine, kedei gemia, like a cheekful. Rabbi Yehuda, the amount you would dilute, which is again is a quarter of this. Hada this tells me mazug, diluted wine, the share is kedei mezigas hakais, which is a whole revius. Otherwise, if you want to say the share is less than that, then the share for raw wine would be less than a quarter of this, because so it comes out basically what Yehuda fixes the share of raw wine as a quarter of this, so diluted wine is a revius. Okay. Now, what about the 4 cups? Kama shiurin shel kaises. How much is the 4 cups? Rabbi Yovin on a tetratin urevia. A tetratin and a quarter, right? Tetratin and a quarter of a tetratin. Together, that makes a reverse. Tetratin is a volume measure, which was 4/5 of a reverse. So that plus a quarter makes a whole reverse. Can you drink the 4 cups in one go, one after the other, without any gaps in between? Right? They correspond to 4 expressions of redemption. So now, must you make gaps, or not? Rameh said, remember we had this in Psachim, that Hallel on Seder night, Im Shaman, if you heard it in Shul, remember this was one of the sources for the idea of Hallel in Shul on Seder night. If you heard it in Shul, Yad say you fulfill your duty. Others say this is not a source, because it says if you heard it, implying that not everyone said it. You may have heard it, but not everyone says it. So that's here you are. Im Shaman says Yad, you fulfill your duty. You don't have to say it again, even though there's not going to be anything in between the 3rd and the 4th cup, because you've said halal already. The Amros tells me if you drink it in one go, Yatsa, you do fulfill your duty. And the halacha is like the Bavli Msachim, if you drink the 4 cups one after the other, you do not fulfill your duty. Yeah. Some learn the rayas differently. Even if you fulfill your duty of halal in the shul, you don't say it at home, but you can still be masik between the 3rd cup and the 4th cup by saying nishmas kol chai and halal agado. So some say since you fulfill your duty of halal on Leil Pesach by hearing it in shul, despite that halal is said there in one go, and not like the Seder to say the first 2 parakim before the meal and the rest after the meal. So also you're fulfilling your 4 cups by drinking in one go, despite the fact that you didn't follow the chum. So some learn the right, the absolute other way around. What about drinking them bit by bit? The idea is you should drink the cups, not to be drunk by them. If you drink it bit by bit, you're not going to get drunk. So therefore you do fulfill your duty with that. Okay? You won't get drunk. You don't have to get drunk. Ma'alat says, can you fulfill your duty with wine of Shemitah? Yes, you can use Shemitah wine. Ma'alat is konditin with a sort of sweet wine. He says, it is treated as wine. Yes, you can use this wine. Ma'alat of Yom Mezugin, can you use diluted wine? The 4 cups, whether it's dilute or raw, it's got to appear and taste like wine. It's good to use red wine. Again, red wine is a reference to the blood as well. Okay, it should be red wine. What do they say in the notes here? If a person drinks too much, he can't tell the difference between good and bad. Okay, it's better than other wine. Tony Mevushal, wine which has been pasteurized with Evakuna Tubal, is like it is spiced. Yeah. Now, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the kashrus of Yad Mevushal to go on the Mizbeach? Maybe it's not kosher for Nesachim. Some say you shouldn't drink stam yenam of goyim. We're worried they used it for avodah zarah. Yain mevushal is not included in the isur because it's got a different taste. Okay. Mavushal Gimel, Ma'alad says B'Yed Mavushal, can you fulfill your duty of the 4 cups? Mavushal, Rav Yana Yetz B'Yed Mavushal. Yes, you can. It's not the Chatchila, we're passing, it's not the Chatchila, but B'Diavad you do Yayet. So Rav Yana the time, eh? Rav Yana can have a Shosai, Abba Kosid of when he drank the 4 cups, have a Chazak Rishon Asata, he had a headache till Shavuos. It was difficult for him, so they allowed him to drink Yain Mavushal, which is not so strong. Rabbi Yehuda Ba'alai can have a Shosai, Abba Kosid of Pesach, have a Chazak Rishon Ad Chago, he had a headache till Sukkot. Chaimese, the other one was Shavuos, this one's still Sukkot. Chaimese had Matronisa B'Nirin, a matron, like a rich woman, saw his face was shiny, was happy. Amra, she said, Saba, he must have 1 or 3 things. I did Shasa Chamrat, or you drank wine. I did have a rivers, you lend with interest. So I did Megala Chaziras, or maybe you raise swine. And that's one which is like not a lot of bother and it gets a lot of reward. Amra, it's a tip of so she's completely wrong. The Harav YCD, he hasn't got any of these 3 things. Ella, his learning is common to him, is frequent with him. The learning, the wisdom shines his face. Rabbi said it's very came to very. How many times did again they saw his happy face? And said, you must have found some treasure. Said the Kabeh came. What new chiddush did you learn? Your face is shining. He says, Tosefta Atika. He says, I heard an old Tosefta Karalei Chachmas Adam Ta'e Panav. And that's why his face was shining. Yeah. A person should show he's happy on the words of Torah. Okay. Rav Chanan, look at the Raisa. The look of the Torah is Atika, Tamanta Atika de Morsia de Tzipori. It's equal to the volume of the old Tamanta measure, which they used to measure the fish brine in Tzipori. I know that measure. The Rabbi Yana have a mechilin bei devash. They used to measure their honey in it. Tani we learned in a brayso is equal to chatzi shminis to Veronis Yeshana is equal to a 16th of the old Tiberian measure, the old measure of Tiberia. This half an eighth, half a 16th, as it were, it was our measure. It's equal to a half an eighth of what we use. So why do you call it an old measure? I mean, begin to have a BMI, but it's still in his days. So why is it old? It's have 0 of us. Some say, well, it was smaller and it grew. The measure grew. Some say 0 come to others. Some say, well, actually, it did grow and then it got small again, but it didn't get as small as it was before. So the Torah says Dafka half a shminis, the Yishala, the old one, when it was small, right, equal to Revius. Because the half shminis in his generation was bigger than Revius. But in the end, it was sort of measured, made smaller, right? And that's why Rabbi Yechon said half the shminis, the older one. Okay. How big is a kais that holds a Revius? Which is, this measure is 2 by 2 by 1 5/6, right? Which is 7 1/3 cubic finger breadths. Okay. Now in Bavli, the measure there is learned from a mikveh, and it's 2 by 2 by 2.7, which is 10.8. Tosfos discusses the difference between the Bavli and Yerushalmi, Shiori Carbon, etc. So we've got 7 1/3, and there it's 10 and 10.8. Okay. Tani we've learned Yavesh, like sort of wine, solidified wine. Kazayis is the Shir Kazayis. Rav Nassan. Rabbanan to kiss Rabbeinu Shem Rishmuel. Acid Rav Nassan is a whole like Shimon. Kemod of Shimon Amar, just like Rav Shimon said, B'Ravir with Revius, that for other drinks Revius, Kena Rav Nassan B'Ravir, the Kishiyikosh, when it solidifies, Yeba Kazayis. Yeah, it's a Shir Kazayis. Okay. Rav Simain, the Shem, Rav Shua ben Levi, Maaseh b'Pirdas Rebbe. Okay, what have we got here? Rebbe's mule. Shemesa v'tiru es dama v'shum nevela. So it died, and they weren't worried about tumas nevela of the blood of this mule. Now, what does it mean? Bosa nevela is metabe when it's a kazayis, right? Now, some parts of it are not fitting for eating. They're excluded from nevela, like the skins and the bones. Dam nevela, some say it's like flesh and it's tameh, and some say it's not and it's tahor. So this Masa happened, they paskened it's tahor from tumas nevela, but he didn't give the reason. Is it tahor legamre because it's not treated as flesh? Or maybe it didn't have a shield. So we're going to see now. So, Rashad Reb Lazar Reb Simon, not Kama. Now, what was the share? How far did they go to say it's tahor? Reb Simon didn't answer his question. Rashad Reb Shimon Levi. Reb Lazar asked Reb Shimon Levi. Amalei, he said, Ad Revius was tahor. Until Revius was okay. But more than that, yes, Mekan is tameh. Ubash. Reb Lazar was a bit upset. Adonai Reb Simon b'shmaita. That Reb Shimon didn't answer his question with a clear halacha. Right? So he asked Reb Simon how much, and he didn't answer. Reb Simon didn't answer him. Then he has to ask Reb Shimon Levi, and Reb Shimon Levi says to Revius. So Reb Lazar was a bit upset that Reb Simon didn't bother answering him. Reb Biba Abu Yasif Masna Adein Ufta. He was sitting teaching this din that the mule died, and they said the blood is tahor. But again, he didn't say how much blood it was. He says, Ad Revius, what was the share? Did they say any share is tahor, or maybe until Revius is tahor? Yes, Mekan is tameh, more than that is tameh. Oh, Bad Bay. Now, what happens now? Instead of Rabbibi, what happens here? Rabbibi pushes him. He doesn't bother answering him. He said, begin to show lachat bay. Because he's asking you a question, you're pushing him away. Rabbibi said, no. Begin to lay up because I wasn't clear in my head. I had a lot in my mind at that time, so I didn't answer properly. Rabbi Yochanan, Reb Chanan said, your life is standing. This is if you're buying wheat for the whole year, fair enough. But if worried day and night, you buy. That's the merchant who buys bread bit by bit in big wholesale amounts. Not to believe in one's life, they're a party buying from the baker every day. I'm waiting for the baker every day. If I didn't have a clear head to give a clear answer. Now, what is that halacha then? Is dam nevela completely tahor, even a revius? But ma'al kedut, so what is it in? He learned from the following. He says it's tahor, it's completely tahor, whatever it is. Ma'al tahor, what does that mean? L'tayim min ha'hechsha, that it doesn't make anything susceptible to receive tumah. Al-tameh, but maybe it's all very well, it doesn't make things susceptible to receive tumah, but as far as defiling food, which has already become touched in liquids, tameh, then you have to say whatever it touches is tameh. Dam nevela has got a din like flesh. Okay. Tamad tanina. Now elsewhere we've learned dam hasheretz kibasori. Now blood of a sheretz is like the flesh, right? It's very soft and very porous. Therefore, metame, it's got metame sheretz, but ain't a machshir. It's like flesh. It's not liquid, so it's not machshir food to receive tumah. But ain't lano kiyotzabai, and there's nothing like it. There's no other blood that's metame and not machshir. Right? Now you have to say, our Mishnah says dam nevela is tahor. It means it's completely tahor, not just it's machshir, because we're saying there's nothing else like sheretz. So this other blood can't be the same thing. So dam nevela must be it's completely tahor. But then the Gemara answers, when we said there's nothing like dam hasheretz, doesn't mean there's no other blood which is metame and not machshir. It doesn't mean that. It means there's no other blood where the shear is kashir tumase, like the shear tumah of blood of a sheretz. Dam of a sheretz is metame ka'adosha, right? Like a lentil, yeah? The shear of the flesh of a sheretz. There's no other blood like that. Dam nevela is different. It's not metame that tiny shear. It's not metame the same shear nevela, which is basa is metame kazayis. The blood is metame revius. Aval, as far as the main din of Tamah Tumah, should dama metame kibasara. But however, the main din of Tumah, the blood of an animal that dies, is metame kibasara, is metame like its flesh, right? So we're not going to go against what we said. Mishnah is hideous. That what? That dam nevela is not machshir eichlin from the Mishnah machshirin. Now then the Gemara says there's actually a machlekes about it. Oh, Rabbi Yisa, plige b'atrei amarai. There's actually an argument to amarai. Chadam one said tameh, that Dam Nevela is Tameh Revius. The one says Tai. No, it's Tai, whatever happens. Man Dama Tameh, the one says it's Revius and always Tameh is Rabbi Yehuda, like the view of Yehuda. Man Dama Tai is going to be Shub Ben Besaira, like Shub Ben Besaira, as we quoted. And now Rav Avduma agrees with Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda is Metame blood of the Nevela. Amle Rav Avduma to be Nachais. He says, "But yo, that's right. That Rabbi Yehuda is Metame the blood of the Nevela when there's Revius. To Rabbi Yehuda Mariana the Nasi Abba. Rabbi Yehuda was the Paisek of the Nasi of Rebbe, and when the mule died, they were Metahir its blood. And Shubalebi explained the reason is because it was less than a Revius. And that means Rabbi Yehuda Paskin like his shitta that Revius of Nevela of blood is Metame. Now, the one who takes the shekels out has to be careful that he's not taking any extra garments to hide some money, right? Why not? Shemayani will become poor. Yom Rabbeinu Alishkad, they say, he became poor because he stole. Tadi Bishmal, kibbutz. Like if he's got like long hair, lo yitzroim ibnei chashad, he shouldn't take the shekels because again, we suspect him. Tani we learned Gizbari name of Haspasin Bekilkin. They would separate the threads in his woolen garments, check that he hadn't put any money there. Tani we learned Medabri na yu imanu. We would speak with him from the time he goes in to the time he goes out. They shouldn't have any suspicion. V'imale pume moi, and we fill his mouth with water, so he can't start putting money in his mouth. Well, he can't do that because he's got a bracha to say, right? They say here what the bracha is. That is the bracha. And he can't do it if we start filling his mouth with water, right? We can't do that. Rav Shmuel bar Nachman Shem Rabbi Yonatan, but Torah Nevi'im Megzurim, throughout Tanakh, Matzinu Shetzarech Latzis Yidei Abris, you have to make sure you're pure in people's eyes and Hashem's eyes. But Torah Minayin, you'll see it says V'Yisem Lekim Hashem Yisrael. That's from Hashem the Jews. But Nevi'im Minayin, you'll see Ela Lekim Hashem Kel Lekim Hashem Hu Yadav Yisrael Hu Yedal. Hashem knows, the Jewish people know. But Kesuvim Minayin Hashem Masechet Shekalim Daf Ben Elahim Adam, to be in the good in the eyes of people. Gamliel Zoga, he says, what's the clearest of the Psukim Shabbakulan? Amalek, V'Yisem Nekim, Hashem Yisrael. That's definitely the most clear pasuk which says that a person should always look innocent in people's eyes. Okay? Yeah. Beis from Gamliel, Halacha Gimel. Now the Beis from Gamliel would go into the Lishkas of the Shekalim, they would take the coins between their fingers, they throw it in, just when they're doing the taking out of the shekels, they would throw it in that minute, just before they were taking out. And the person who's taking would like take those coins and push them in the box. You're not allowed to take the shekalim out of the box until you say, should I take? They said, go ahead, to rhyme 3 times. Time as Rishayna, you take the first truma, the first collection of the money for the kabbanas, basically just Rishayna just before Pesach. The chipa, the katamlios, you would cover over the money left behind with sort of leather, and also just before Shavuos, you will take from the second lishka, even though you've not taken all from the first one, you would still move to the second one. But chiv again, you cover it over. And when it comes to sukkahs, when you're taking money, then shlishis after the third one, you wouldn't bother covering that. But why would you cover over the money? You might forget and take second time from when you took the first time, right? The first truma was for the sake of those in Israel. The cities nearby around Eretz Yisrael. The third one, L'Shem Babel, Shem Modal, Shem Medina is Harachogis, and for the far countries. The people would still be sending, right, throughout the year. So all these trumas were done for everyone. We're sort of respecting the people from these towns. We're remembering them for good. Okay. Okay. Where are we going now? Shabbos from Gamliel. From Gamliel, they would go with their shekels between their fingers. They throw it in front of the one who's taking the truma, and the Torah is sort of miscovered. He's like pushes them in the box. Now, if you had like 2 amounts of fruit in a person's domain, and you take truma for one for the other one, surely you've covered the other mound as well. So why are the people bothering to make sure that their shekel goes into the truma box, and not rely on the fact that the kabbalah zibur are bought from the money that all the money's been given? The fact that it went in the special truma box doesn't matter, right? It's all still their money on behalf of everyone. He says, even so, it made them happy. They wanted their money to make sure it goes towards the kabbalas. They take from the first box. Tani, if these covers got out of place, right, and therefore the shkalim, the new ones, got mixed up with the leftovers of the previous trumas, now sukulon shirayim, they're all shirayim out of doubt, and they're all possible for the trumas alishka for kabbalah sibul. Tani, we learned in the brayso shlishis, the third one, which is done just before sukkahs. Here I saw shirish b'kulam. This was probably the more money in there than why? You have other golden pieces there that people would send from afar. Right? People far away could change their shekels into gold. It's easier to take it to Yerushalmi. There was always money that reached, like the 4 months before, from the last truma, a big percentage of it was gold, which had come from far away. Tani, we've learned Taram. The person who takes the truma, he's thinking the first lot is for those in Eretz Yisrael, Shem Kol Yisrael. Shnia, the second lot is the Shem Krachin and Bukavin, the cities which are surrounding, or Shem Kol Yisrael. Vashlish is the Shem Babel, and for the sake of Madal, Shem Medinas or Chagas, the areas further away, or Shem Kol Yisrael. Tani, we've learnt in a brayso, Natal, if you take money for Kabbalah Tzibur, Mina Rishona, from the first box, there's still money in the first one. So here, first you would take money from the first box, okay, and even though there's still money there, second time you take from the second box. You take from the second one. There's still more money left in the second one. You take from the third one. The third one's finished, then you go back to the second one. If the second one's finished, you go back to the first one. If all the money's come out, all 9 saw, in all the 3 boxes, you take again from the new shkalim, which have not become shiraim yet. Now you go back to the leftovers to take from them. He says, there is a din me'ila in shiraim, the leftovers because you might need them in the end for buying the korbanos. So you can use the shiraim and still got the same kedusha as you might need it. Okay, we're going to stop here, Rabbi Sai. All right, and we'll carry on tomorrow. Pinchas ben Yair, I could have carried on, but I want to go slower through Pinchas ben Yair, so we'll stop here.